Hope is not a strategy. I'm going to say that one more time. Hope is not a strategy. Why? Because when it comes to safety and security, just hoping bad things won't happen isn't just risky. It's actually reckless and it's dangerous. Too many churches, schools, and organizations are operating with this false sense of security, all the while being completely unaware of the fact that there are threats all around them.
I'm in danger.
This is what most of us do. We pray that nothing ever happens and hope that if it does, someone else is going to know what to do. But hope isn't going to stop an active shooter. Hope doesn't prevent a child from going missing or being abducted by a parent who's lost their custodial rights. Hope by itself doesn't keep a fire from starting in the church kitchen or keep it from consuming the entirety of your church property. And when seconds matter, hope is not going to perform CPR or life-saving first aid care to somebody who's been injured. Here's the hard truth. Emergencies never schedule appointments. Chaos is not going to send an RSVP.
I'm your blind spot, and my job is easy. Hide big things. You're good.
Chaos and emergencies show up unannounced, and they usually show up when we're completely unprepared. So if your plan is to simply hope for the best, then when that day comes, when there's a fire, there's a medical emergency, or just there's a couple that are screaming obscenities at each other in your side lobby, you've already lost some very precious time. It's kind of like racing a 5K, but letting the competition start a mile or two ahead. If you do that, there's no way you're going to win. And the same thing goes for not having policies or procedures. Not having an official policy equates to confusion. Confusion leads to hesitation, and hesitation can literally cost lives. When people don't know their role, they freeze. They assume somebody else is going to handle it, which causes some friction and even arguments among your team. Hope says, we'll figure it out if something happens, or God is going to protect us. Listen, I believe in God's protection, but I also believe God expects us to use wisdom and take responsibility for the people that He's entrusted to us. I trust God, but I also wear my seatbelt when I'm driving, and I apply that same logic as the reason that we should write policies in our church.
He's got a point.
Using wisdom and taking responsibility for the people we've been entrusted with is called stewardship. And like it or not, stewardship is not a passive activity. Stewardship requires forethought, meaning brainstorming and thinking about things that might happen in the future. But it also requires action, meaning you got to do some things. The alternative to leaning on hope as your strategy is simple. It's being proactive. It's having official policies and writing them down. It means you have clear procedures for what you're going to do if, and it also means you have regular training for it and with your teams. The alternative to hope as a strategy means everyone knows what to do. It means everyone knows where to go. It means people understand your chain of command or who they're supposed to talk to if they have questions. And when the unexpected happens, instead of panic, you have a coordinated response. So ask yourself right now, does my church have written policies for safety and security? Does your team know what to do in a medical emergency? And if the answer is no, it's time to stop hoping that nobody ever has a heart attack and just start planning in case someone does. Why? Because according to the CDC, a heart attack occurs every 40 seconds in the US. And as far as I know, churches or places of worship aren't excluded from that statistic. Ask yourself this one. Does your team have a policy for checking kids in and out of kids' church? I know a lot of us do the check-in pretty good, but we fail at checkout.
Killing me, Smalls.
Again, if the answer is no, it's time to stop hoping a kid doesn't go missing while they're in your care and start planning a preventative strategy for our most vulnerable members. The statistic for missing children is actually similar to the heart attack statistic. In the US, it's estimated that a child goes missing every 40 to 68 seconds. And that doesn't mean all of these kids are being abducted, but it does mean they're going missing for some reason. So ask yourself this, does your team know what it would do if a child went missing while they were in your care? If you don't have an answer for that question, it's time to write some policies. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering how we're going to do that. So if you don't know how to write policies, I'm going to give you a simple process today so that you, even you, can write policies today. But before we do that, go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. That really helps me in this YouTube algorithm. If you've been tasked with leading security in your church, hit the subscribe button. And I format these videos so you can use them in your own training sessions. I put out 2 videos every month giving you free resources to lead a security ministry at your local church.
That's impressive.
If you're new to church security and could benefit from a more robust or comprehensive and organized training, head over to leadsecurity.com for our full training. There, you're going to find more than 60 videos. You're going to have well over 100 printable documents to help you build a team and lead your team well. We actually just crossed the 300 subscribers threshold on our YouTube channel, but our next big goal is 1,000 subscribers. And we don't want to grow this channel for the sake of growth. We want to grow this channel because we believe every subscriber represents a community of believers who are standing watch, who are providing a safe place for people to connect with the creator of the world and with the community that surrounds them. So if you appreciate what we do here, if you find value in these videos, share this video or this channel with other pastors and leaders that are in your community, and join me in making churches more inviting and secure for everyone. Now, let's jump into this conversation. The first thing you need to do if you want to start writing policies is start with the purpose.
Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Explain why your policy exists. You want to keep it short, just 1 or 2 sentences. And as an example, I'm going to show you how I wrote my policy for firearms at my church. The purpose for that policy reads like this: to ensure all concealed carriers at our church follow safe handling practices and understand response procedures during an emergency. The second thing you need to do in writing a policy is to define the scope. That means you need to clarify who this policy is going to apply to. Is it just your staff? Is it your volunteers? Is it everybody that's on your property? An example of this, as stated in my firearms policy, was this policy applies to all authorized individuals carrying a firearm on church property. I wrote authorized individuals because we have a policy at our church that states unauthorized weapons are prohibited on our property, which exists to alleviate liability and potential accidents that are just unnecessary. So third on this list is to state the policy clearly.
Can you hear me now? Good.
You're going to want to write this rule in a simple statement. Just use plain language. That means avoid all the legal jargon that might sound fancy, but it's only going to serve to blur some lines. Writing policies is not the time to try to make you sound smart. It's the time to make your policies clear and easy to understand, which is actually the smart move, because then now people aren't going to ask you a bunch of unnecessary questions. So what does that look like? In my firearms policy, it states all firearms must remain holstered unless responding to an immediate deadly threat. Now, fourth, you're going to include key procedures. I know that policy may have felt short, but that's because we're adding key procedures here. That means you need to explain exactly what to do in specific scenarios regarding this one policy. You're going to use bullet points to clarify things. For my firearms policy, in the case of an active shooter, this is what that would look like. 1, draw your firearm only if you clearly identify an active deadly threat. 2, stop the threat as quickly and as safely as possible. 3, remember your backdrop and avoid hitting innocent bystanders. 4, after the threat is neutralized, holster immediately, show empty hands when law enforcement arrives, and follow all of the commands of whatever law enforcement officer is on the scene. If you have any questions regarding this policy specifically, I actually just dropped a video, I think it was just last week or 2 weeks ago, regarding this policy. If you have any questions, go back and check that out or hit me up in the comments. Now, the fifth part to writing policies is to add responsibility and accountability. To do this, you need to name who is going to be enforcing the policy and what happens if the policy is violated. An example of this coming from my very own firearms policy is failure to comply with this policy may result in removal from the security team, revocation of carrying privileges, and or legal action by the church leadership. Here's the thing about consequences though. You have to be willing to follow through with them. You don't want to write any consequences down that you're not going to have the guts to back up. See, if you write down consequences, but you don't ever back them up, you're only damaging your reputation as a trusted leader. So if you write down consequences, make sure you follow through. And remember, you can always use your policy as your backstop. Say, listen, I'm sorry that I have to do that, but because we have a written policy, this is what has to happen. Now, the last part of policy writing is to train and review. A policy is useless without practice. So within your policy, consider writing a statement that will be reviewed or trained regularly. And now that word regularly is important because every community isn't going to be able to train every month or every week, but every team needs to have training with some regularity. A statement that you could use on your written policy to promote regular reviews and training could be something like, this policy is going to be reviewed annually and covered in all safety or security team training sessions. To wrap this up, first of all, let me say thanks for hanging out. I know this one's been a little bit longer than the other videos, but I do want to say this. Hope is a beautiful thing. I know I kind of busted on hope at the beginning. Hope as a strategy is terrible. But hope actually is a beautiful thing. To quote Martin Luther King Jr., he said, "We must accept the finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." While that sounds good and is established in truth, when it comes to security, hope isn't a sufficient strategy. We need to make plans, we need to train our teams, and we need to cultivate a culture that protects our most vulnerable people. If you found this video to be helpful, do me a favor and like the video. That seemingly small gesture goes further than you could believe. So until next time, remember to be vigilant and stay aware. I'll see you in the next one.